Clara and 3 friends were born on March 11th. What a coincidence. Very likely. Leslie is 5 years younger than Clara. Mike is 2 years younger than Clara. Thomas is 3 years older than Clara. And instead of knowing how old they are, you somehow know the following obscure fact. You do not know how old they are, but you happen to know that the product of their ages is 61,136 greater than the sum of their ages. How old was Clara? Right? What is the right answer for this question? You ask her, how old are you? And she'll probably tell you. That would be my best strategy in this question. Now, if Clara is self-conscious and doesn't want to say her age, Mike's younger, right? And he's probably doesn't care about how old he is. So I would ask Mike, and then I would figure out how old Clara is. This seems like the best strategy for this question. However, this is designed to get you to practice using graphing software and making equations. So for that part, I don't mind it. But as an actual real life kind of question, I'm sorry. The other ones, like cutting the paper out, the jewelry boxes that we made, actually finding the largest volume, that seemed useful for me. This, okay, but let's practice it. What do they have? We have 4 people, and we don't know. We want to find out how old Clara is. So I'm going to make her age X. Okay, Leslie is 5 years younger. So Leslie would be X minus 5. Mike is 2 years younger. Mike would be X minus 2. And then there's Thomas, 3 years older. So first of all, we have a comparison point. We're all comparing to Clara's age. We can pick a variable for that, and we can put those all together. Now, this sentence right here is a comparison. The product is greater than the sum. Makes sense. If you multiplied all their ages together compared to adding all their ages together, they wouldn't be equal to each other. And in fact, if I make an equation right now, and I'm just going to use words, if I put the product on this side and the sum on this side, they would not be equal. Not yet. I'm going to make an equation. I need to figure out which side I need to add 61,136 to make them equal. Well, the product was greater, so in order to make them equal, does it make sense that I would need to add the 61,136 to that side? And now I'm going to go to the algebra. What does product mean? Multiplication. So I'm going to multiply all of these together. What does sum mean? Add them up. I'm going to do some mental math here. All those x's together would be 4x. And adding those numbers together, minus 7 plus 3, minus 4. To solve this with Desmos or with a graphing calculator. So I'll show you with the graphing calculator. You can do the same thing in Desmos. On the left side, we're going to make that equation equal to y and put it into y1 in our graphing calculator. And on the right side, we're going to make that equation equal to y, and we'll put it into y2 in our graphing calculator. So we'll get 2 equations, and I'll pull up our calculator here. I'm going to go to y equals, clear out what I had, and the left side was the product, so I had x minus 5, x minus 2. What was the last one? X plus 3? Yes? Okay. And the sum was 4x minus 4, and then plus 61,136. Yes. Okay. mine color codes, it's going to make the one graph in blue, the other graph in red. Chances are when I hit the graph button, I won't be able to see much at all. I'm just because of my window. Oh, and I've got my... Oh, I see my blue graph. I do not see my red graph at all. So one of the challenges in a question like this is setting up your graph so you can see it. In Desmos, for those of you that use Desmos at home, you can just grab the screen and move it around. It's much more intuitive. The graphing calculator is a little bit more, you need some more technical skills. So some things on the graphing calculator that are sometimes useful, okay? You can hit a zoom button, and there's a whole bunch of different zooms. Sometimes people like to try the zoom fit, which says, let's try to fit your graphs on there. Okay, I got my red graph right at the top now. I've got my blue graph kind of at the bottom. I want to find where the red graph and the blue graph intersect, because where they cross is going to be the solution to this question. Does it sort of look like off to the left, the blue graph is starting to go up, and it might hit that red graph eventually? So now I'm going to go to my window button to make adjustments. What am I looking at right now? I'm looking at -1 to 12 for my x, and my y's are going from -56.24, very strategic, I guess, up to 61,180. So I'm going to try to extend my graph to the right, and maybe I'm going to extend my graph higher a little bit. Other things to consider in a word problem that represents something. X is Claire's age. So when I extend my x, I'm not going to go up to 1,000 for x, because that would be a ridiculous answer. I'm going to assume at least that they made this question somewhat reasonable. So I know that x is my age. When I look at y1 and y2, y1 is a polynomial. You know the x-intercepts are 5, 2, and -3. So that's kind of helpful information. y2, 4x plus 61,132. That's a line. It's a line with a positive slope and a y-intercept at 61,132. So if you know a little bit about what your equations are, those can also help you look at what you want to do. So I'm going to change my x max. I'm going to go with 50. She could be older than 50. My y max, I'll go up a little bit higher too, to 70,000, since that slope would be positive as it's going up. That's probably more than enough. And now I'm going to hit the graph button. And sure enough, I can see where my two graphs intersect. On Desmos, if you just touch one graph, a dot will automatically appear where they intersect. Desmos is very intuitive. It says, oh, one of the things you often want to find is where two graphs intersect. So they just make a dot there ready for you to push. And you push on that dot, and you find your answer right away. Very intuitive. The graphing calculator, it's not a touch screen, so you have to calculate where they intersect. And everything for calculations on the graphing calculator is above the trace button where it says calc. So I go second trace, and these are all things you can calculate from a graph. The one we want to calculate, number 5, is where they intersect. So it automatically puts your graph on your cursor on the blue one. You're on the first curve, push enter on the red one, push enter when it says guess, and x is 17. So if on a take-home quiz you write y1 and y2 there and then say from calculator, or if you use Desmos, it is a word problem. So you should end with a statement that shows that you know the answer to that word problem. Claire is 17 years old. All right, you can circle questions 7 and 8.